Welcome back, my YouTube family. I'm so happy to be here. We're going to be diving into the sessions episode. If you haven't subscribed to the Soul Frequency Show on either iTunes or Spotify or Google Play, Pandora, all of those places you can get the Soul Frequency Show, do that because we have some amazing interview episodes coming out. And those are the platforms that we do the interview episodes. Here, you get me on camera doing the sessions episodes as well. This week, we are diving into, oh my gosh, September. Can you believe it? This year, what? We're going to dive into ego versus soul. And this is such a big topic. I actually get asked about this topic a lot. Like, how do I know the difference between my ego talking and my soul talking? And there's just a lot of, I think, confusion, right? And lack of clarity on what is the voice in my head and is it the voice that I should be following? And so we are going to dive into that on today's episode. And I'm so happy you're here because I think that I've never really met anybody that doesn't come across a point where they really need to understand the voice in their head, or the two voices, right? Like the ego and the soul voice. And so this is the episode where we're going to pick that apart and put it all back together and make it all make sense. So let's just hold on a moment and I will go ahead and intro the sessions episode. This is Shauna Lee, and welcome to this week's The Soul Frequency Sessions. Real talk about real life and how to raise your energy frequency. All right, you guys, we just did a little intro on YouTube for this important session episode. I just think this is important. You know, I wanted to talk about this because a question was put on Instagram. If you're not following me there, I'm at The Soul Frequency, about like, how do I know if I'm listening to my soul or if I'm listening to my ego, and how do I tell the difference? And I think the confusion is there across the board for everybody at least one point or another, certainly on those like really big issues too. Like, should I leave my career? Or should I, get into this relationship or get out of this relationship? I mean, the big things, right? That we really have a lot of fear around not making the right choice. And I think today we're going to really give some specific tools on how you know what's talking to you in your head. So I think we always think that our soul feels amazing and the ego voice is always yelling at us, right? Or saying mean things to us, or it's not helpful. And that's not always the case. Like, when the ego is talking to us, you want to think along the lines of safety. So the ego is very, very committed to keeping you safe. And safe may mean staying put. Safe may mean no changes, right? Even if changes could be positive and helpful. So the ego voice is often looking for, where is change happening? How am I afraid? What are you going to do that's different? That type of thing. So when we first start making changes in our life, it's very typical to feel uncomfortable. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start making some different choices for my life. And my ego's like, no, I don't think so. Like, we're going to stay right here. So it doesn't necessarily feel like a bowl of cherries or so amazing at the beginning. And you want to listen for the voice that's telling you, well, what could happen? Like, what could happen? You might fail, or this might not work out, or have you ever thought about this? That's usually the ego talking, right? It's just trying to keep you safe. Sometimes some people say, it kind of sounds like my mom's voice, right? Or a parent's voice going like, oh, don't take a risk, right? Just stay put, basically. And your soul voice is different. Your soul voice is going to come in nudges, right? It's going to come, it feels more like a wave that rolls in, and it might roll in and roll out the other side. It might roll in and stay for a while. It's very fluid feeling, different than, like, I register the ego voice as abrupt, right? It's like, don't do this, don't do that, da, da, da. Where the soul voice is like, what about this, right? Or have you looked over here? It's kind of like that. It's like these rolling in whispers of maybe look in this direction or check this out, or sometimes the soul voice will have you do things that you've never done before or that seem random. So like the soul voice will say, go have lunch like the next city over on this really random day. And you're like, why would I do that? Like, it's not where I normally go. But it will draw you forward, right, to different people or experiences or things that are outside the box. So if we want to start really following our soul path, we just want to start listening to that, right? And just doing those random, like intuitive hits that you get, exploring them and checking them out. And it doesn't mean you have to go like all in on day one, but just giving it a little like room to speak and hearing it and going and checking things out, right? And trying new things. I think one of the things that scares us the most is we, in our culture, I think a lot, have made the ego bad, right? Like ego is bad and soul is good, which again is dualistic, right? It's not in unity. Unity really has a lot of neutrality. So ego and soul is not good and bad or good and evil, that type of thing. It's just, they are both important. You wouldn't want to not have an ego. You would probably feel like you had no identity, which wouldn't be good. It's just understanding what they're there for and how to utilize, right, your soul voice and how to utilize your ego voice. I mean, certainly you want your ego to protect you from certain things like physical danger, and that's a positive thing, right? And I absolutely believe that us being able as human beings to understand our ego voice and to be able to move through some of the fears that it brings up is entirely part of the process. And it's what makes, doing things that are outside the box so amazing. Is it's like what you move through to achieve this or to, feel fulfilled is part of the whole process. In fact, some people always say, it's a journey, not the destination, because once you get to the destination, you're like, the journey was the amazing part. And so it's realizing wherever you are on your path and whatever journey you're on, you're in the amazing part. And continuing to understand these two voices helps you be able to really move through some of the things that you need to, the lessons, the things you need to move through to really understand life and yourself and why you're here. And so it's a balance, right, of the soul and the ego and listening to both at different times and knowing when to listen to one and when to listen to the other. And one of the things you can do for a practical application of this is you can write down in your journal, like, what is a soul voice thing that's coming through and what feels like an ego voice thing that's coming through. So you can start to differentiate, how your soul speaks to you and how your ego speaks to you. One of the things too is if you follow your soul voice and you start going outside the box and trying new things and doing new stuff, you will start to see synchronicities happen and you'll start to see people coming into your life or opportunities coming into your life. And that is affirmation that you've listened to the soul voice. Like, it opens different portals, right, of frequencies and experiences and things like that. So the ego voice doesn't do that. Like, you won't have that experience. So if you're having that, you're probably listening to your soul voice. So hopefully that's helpful on your path. Maybe this week, go ahead and write down, like, what is the ego voice and what is the soul voice in my life? Honoring both of them, not trying to get one out of the picture, just honoring that they're both there, working in conjunction to help you move forward in life. So I will see you guys back here next week for more sessions. All right, my YouTube friends, that was ego versus soul. So definitely take it on this week to write down in the journal, like, what is the soul voice? What is the ego voice? It's so critically important to understand both. And it's so critically important to know how to utilize both of those things. I really think one of the most extraordinary parts of this time that we are living in right now is how to integrate all of us, not, how to try to bifurcate parts of ourselves that maybe we haven't really honored before, but how to take all of these different aspects of ourselves and integrate them in a really powerful way, and how to honor each one of them. Because when we are in resistance to an aspect of self, we're putting so much energy into that. We're pushing it away. And what we really want to do is embrace all of those aspects so that we're not feeding a bunch of energy into one area, right? And we're usually doing that unknowingly. We think we're resisting it, going, no, I'm going to get that out of my life. I'm not going to deal with that. But what we're really doing is just giving all of our energy to that. So it's more like, I'm just going to love all parts of myself. I'm going to integrate all parts of myself. I'm going to know what works with what. What serves me in the moment, what's helpful, what's not helpful. And if it's not helpful, I'm just going to ignore it in the moment. I'm going to not give my energy to it. That way I'm not supplying it all of this life force. And that'll be really helpful in being able to conserve your energy. Use it on what you want. Use it to create the things that you want. And don't use it where you don't want. We have the power to choose how we spend our energy. And when we start doing that, life starts moving forward in the most incredible ways. So join me back here next week for sessions, and I'll see you then.